What's up, Tucson? How we doing? This is the 5 on 20 News with Luc Goodhart coming to you live from our studio in downtown Tucson. It's Wednesday, October 11th. Let's talk local headlines. Arizona Senator Jeff Flake introduced a proposal that would extend some protections for DACA recipients in exchange for border security funding and new restrictions on who would be eligible for deportation. Flake's Border Security and Deferred Action Recipient Relief Act is one of a handful of bills intended to solve the DACA issue. Last month, the Trump administration canceled the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, giving the Congress 6 months to come up with a solution. On March 5th, the program will officially be canceled, and DACA recipients may be subject to deportation if Congress doesn't take action. Flake called his bill, quote, the best way to thread a needle to deliver exactly what the president asked for, what the Congress wants, and what my constituents deserve. The bill would grant a 10-year extension to DACA recipients who entered the country before 2012, the year that DACA went into effect. But these individuals would have to be working, be enlisted in the military, or going to school. At the end of 10 years, they would be able to apply for a green card. In exchange, the bill calls for $1.6 billion in additional border security funding, intending to gain Republican support. Flake also said, quote, it's something that I think Democrats can live with. But some Democrats have been hesitant to sign on into any legislation that ties DACA relief to border security. These Democrats include Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva and Illinois Representative Luis Gutierrez, who have both threatened to hold up the federal budget in December if there is not a vote on a Clean Dream Act. This would address the DACA issue without border security being included. Trump is not likely to support such a plan because it doesn't deliver him the big, beautiful border wall, and because our president just doesn't do clean. Fatal car crashes increased in Arizona last year, although drunk driving-related accidents decreased, according to new data released by the U.S. Department of Transportation. The report states that fatal car crashes increased by 7%, while drunk driving accidents decreased by 14% over the same period of time. In 2015, drunk driving fatalities accounted for 30% of all fatal car accidents, but last year that number fell to 24%. However, this trend does not reflect nationwide statistics. The number of fatal car crashes increased nationwide, but drunk driving also increased by almost 2%. According to the report, the last time the number of fatal car accidents increased this much nationwide was from 1963 to 1964, when there was an increase of over 9%. This year, Arizona Highways will adopt the slogan, Arizona Highways. At least you probably won't be killed by a drunk driver. It's a cheery new slogan. Arizona lawmakers are predictably split on the issue of gun control following last week's Las Vegas shooting that killed 59 and injured over 500. The event, even more predictably, stoked yet another ideological clash over guns. The issue inflamed questions like, should we limit access to firearms, and why does this feel like Groundhog Day without any likable characters? So far, only Democratic Representatives Raul Grijalva and Ruben Gallego have suggested specific steps to address the incidents. Another curveball. Grijalva co-sponsored a bill that advises Congress to view gun violence as a public health issue, while Gallego introduced a bill that outlines a voluntary code of conduct for licensed firearm dealers. Republican Representative Paul Gosar said he believes now is not the time to discuss gun control. When asked about the right time, Gosar said, during a week when there's no shootings in the U.S. So to quote a famous New Yorker cartoon, how about never? Does never work for you? More than 60 bills are now floating through the House, covering an array of gun-related measures. All 5 Republican House members from Arizona co-sponsored a bill to make transporting concealed weapons across state lines easier. Yes, easier. Easier than it already is, which is really easy. None of the 4 Democrats have signed on to the bill, at least until the NRA changes tactics. Gosar and Representative Trent Franks co-sponsored a bill to make it easier to buy a silencer. In related shocking news, the sky is still blue. Phoenix area parents are upset by an online video game used in Phoenix elementary schools that simulates slavery. Parents say that the game, called Mission US, Flight to Freedom, trivializes a complex and potentially traumatizing issue. In the game, students adopt the persona of a 14-year-old Lucy King, an enslaved girl trying to escape a Kentucky plantation. The game follows a choose-your-own-adventure format as Lucy plots her escape and occasionally receives beatings from the plantation master. A Phoenix Elementary spokeswoman said that the district was unsure of how the game made its way into the classroom, and the district blocked access to the game on Tuesday. She said that the district's guide to online instructional tools did not include the game and said that she agreed with parents' concerns. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the National Endowment for the Humanities provided funding for the development of the game, which has won 20 awards and honors since its 2010 launch. The creators also provided supplemental materials for teachers to use the game in class. The game's creators say that it helps students, quote, develop a more personal, memorable, and meaningful connection with a complex historical content. Several educators, students, and gamers have also offered glowing reviews of the game, including Common Sense Media, a San Francisco nonprofit that recommends digital tools for the classroom. But Phoenix parents say that slavery shouldn't be fun, and one parent said, quote, "I don't think students are mature enough to be using this program. My wife and I are really concerned with the violence." Parents say they'd rather their children learn about our racist history by watching grown-ass men chanting Nazi slogans at free speech rallies across the nation. Turning now to national and international news, a D.C. District Court ordered the web hosting company DreamHost to turn over data to the federal government on a website used to organize Inauguration Day protests against Donald Trump. However, the order states that the information on third-party users of the website must be redacted in order to protect their identities. Chief Justice Robert Morin ruled that the government could proceed with a warrant sought last August, even as DreamHost's lawyers objected that the ruling violates the First and Fourth Amendments. DreamHost says they will likely appeal the ruling. The Justice Department is seeking information and data on the website disruptj20.org, which was used to organize the protests in January. The original warrant caused a public outcry because it would mean the company would be handling over about 1.3 million IP addresses to the federal government. The U.S. Attorney's Office later amended the warrant to exclude visitor IP addresses or information protected by the Privacy Protection Act. But DreamHost continues to argue that complying with the warrant means turning over email lists and correspondence between website managers and unknowing third parties. They claim that the case would potentially chill free speech as people may fear visiting similar future sites. However, DreamHost said they were happy with the changes because the government will not be able to uncover the identities of the third-party users unless the court finds probable cause of criminal activity, or unless the government considers probable cause of criminal activity to include visiting a website. A bipartisan pair of lawmakers introduced legislation on Tuesday that would ban bump stocks, which is the device used by the Las Vegas gunman to make his semi-automatic rifle fire more rapidly. The bill was introduced by Representative Carlos Curbelo of Florida and Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. It would prohibit the manufacture, sale, and use of the devices or anything similar that is designed to increase the rate of fire. Under the bill, bump stock ban violators would face 10 years in prison. Curbelo said, quote, "This is common sense legislation, will ban devices that blatantly circumvent already existing law without restricting Second Amendment rights." The bill is the first piece of gun control legislation introduced after the Las Vegas shooting, which took the grim distinction of being the most fatal mass shooting in recent U.S. history. Law enforcement found that the shooter, Stephen Paddock, had 12 bump stocks attached to rifles in his Mandalay Bay suite. Democrats immediately sought further gun control to stop future attacks, but they appear to be moving slowly so as not to turn away Republicans. Moulton said, quote, "We can always be doing more, but this bill is a crucial starting point." It's still unclear whether Republican lawmakers will go for the bill, although the GOP has recently come out against bump stocks. Some GOP lawmakers have asked the ATF to consider using regulations to ensure that bump stocks and similar devices are banned. But so far, only 9 Republicans have signed on to the Curbelo-Moulton bill. They include Representatives Peter King of New York, Leonard Lance and Chris Smith of New Jersey, Patrick Meehan, Charlie Dent and Ryan Costello of Pennsylvania, Ed Royce of California, Ed Paulson of Minnesota, and Ileana Rose-Lehtinen of Florida. 9 Democrats have also co-sponsored the bill because Moulton wants the numbers to be equal to be truly bipartisan. But I'm pretty sick of saying maybe this time, so I'm cynically not holding my breath. An ICE detainee was sent to solitary confinement at a private detention center because he encouraged a protest over voluntary low-wage labor. The detainee, originally from Haiti, spent a month in solitary 3 days after he shouted, "No work, no pay," in a facility kitchen, according to ICE records. The records state that the detainee was, quote, found guilty of encouraging others to participate in a work stoppage and was sentenced to 30 days of disciplinary segregation. At the privately run Stewart Detention Center in rural Georgia, immigrants often work for about $1 per day as long as the work is voluntary. An ICE spokesman said that detainee labor at Stewart is governed by the agency's, quote, voluntary work program. However, attorney Azadeh Shashahani says that this is not the first hint of forced work at a privately run facility. A class action suit was launched last year by 9 ICE detainees who alleged that ICE contractor, the Geo Group, profited off forced labor in violation of anti-slavery laws. The company who runs the Georgia prison, CoreCivic, formerly known as Corrections Corporation of America, denied that the detainee was forced into solitary. This isn't because the detainee didn't spend the time in solitary, but rather that they don't use that term because it sounds bad. A CoreCivic spokesman told The Intercept, quote, "CoreCivic does not use solitary confinement at Stewart Detention Center. I'd submit to you that using the term in your coverage with regard to Stewart would give readers a false impression of the reality of restricted housing at the facility." When asked if they were participating in modern-day slavery, CoreCivic said that they are engaging in extracurricular deferred pay labor. Did y'all hurt yourself on that stretch? California Governor Jerry Brown signed a law that makes drug pricing more transparent and requires that drug makers justify big price hikes. Brown says that the bill is part of a larger push to battle growing income inequality in the U.S. and called on pharmaceutical leaders to consider doing business in a way that helps low-income citizens. Brown said, quote, "The rich are getting richer and the powerful are getting more powerful. We've got to point to the evils, and there's a real evil when so many people are suffering so much from rising drug profits." The law requires that drug companies notify the state and health insurers anytime they plan to raise the price of medication by 16% or more over 2 years. Also, these companies will have to provide a justification for the rising price. Unsurprisingly, the drug lobby opposed the bill, called SB 17, as 45 lobbying firms tried to defeat the measure, spending $16.8 million in the effort. Drug companies said the bill focuses too narrowly on just one part of the drug distribution chain and won't help consumers afford their medicine. The Drug Industry Association Pharma said, quote, "There is no evidence that SB 17 will lower drug prices because it does not shed light on the large rebates and discounts insurance companies and pharmacy benefit managers are receiving." But Gerard Anderson, a health policy professor at Johns Hopkins University, says that drug makers get about 3/4 of the money paid for a drug. He also says that drug makers are the ones who set the price initially. The legislation is supported by a diverse group, including labor, consumer and hospital groups, and even insurers who agreed to share data under the bill. Insurers agreed to report the percentage of premium increases caused by the higher drug prices. Drug companies say that if the legislation goes through, then they'll just stop making drugs and become a hedge fund or something like that. Well, good luck with that, jerks. On a more uplifting and hopefully inspiring note, today is National Coming Out Day. 38 years ago, 125,000 gay men, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender people and straight allies marched on Washington, D.C. to demand equal rights and an end to discrimination against LGBT people. We've come a long way, but stigma, intolerance, and violence against LGBTQ people persist to this day. Visibility is the first step in acceptance and progress, so don't be afraid to be yourself. You may have more support and allies than you realize, and your bravery is contagious. For resources on coming out in a variety of communities, check out the HRC's National Coming Out Day page at hrc.org. In related news, the 5 on 20 team was out and proud for Tucson's 40th annual Pride Parade on September 29th. Did you know that little old Tucson has one of the oldest Pride celebrations in the country? It's true. We're just behind San Francisco and New York's famously fabulous Pride celebrations. Yes, Queen. I had a blast watching the parade and talking to the revelers, so enjoy, stay proud, you do you, and stay creative, Tucson.
Just wanted less, but I know all of me wanted more, yeah.
My name's Kevin Osborne.
And can you tell me why you're out here tonight and what Pride means to you?
Well, it means a lot to me because I think I was part of the group that started Gay Pride in Tucson many, many years ago. I used to own that building across the street that says Co-op.
So you were here for the very first 1977 inaugural Tucson Pride?
I was here in 1973.
Wow. Oh, geez.
I was here for the smoke-in in the park.
That's so cool. Tell us more about that.
Well, it was about marijuana and being free and being a hippie and politics and all the anti-war stuff that was going on. Yes, it was that time of period.
Wow. That's incredible.
I was the first white person to move into the barrio.
Well, that's interesting.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you. Happy Pride. Tell us why you're out here tonight and what Pride means to you.
Well, I'm out here tonight because I'm performing for Pride, and you know, Pride just means so many things to me. It's just proud of who you are and loving who you are, and as a person in and out of drag, and it's just an amazing community.
Awesome. What about yourself?
I mean, more or less the same thing. I mean, I think it's really important to come together, especially when we have the opportunity to just roam the streets with everybody else out here. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful.
Be accepted for who you are.
And I just want to be out here like this because people like Donald Trump say we can't.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Happy Pride. Have a good night.